Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King. And today I'm going to be giving you a new series guys. What if Naruto's dream was to become the greatest puppeteer? Part 1. If you enjoyed this and want to see part 2 of this, go ahead and comment down below and tell me that you want to see part 2 guys. And I'll be posting it as soon as possible for you guys to enjoy. You guys can go ahead and check out this Dice 27. I'll be leaving the link down in the description for you guys to enjoy. And over on Anime King 2, I posted a new series of what if Naruto was taken and fused with Zetsu. So go ahead and check out that and enjoy guys. And remember, if you're new to the channel and this is the first time you hear my voice and you enjoy the videos on both Anime King and Anime King 2, go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become a part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and your support. Remember to comment down below and tell me if you're new. I'll be replying talking back to all of you. So yeah guys, without further ado, what do you say begin this new episode? Begin the intro. So let me give you a bit of summary before this series starts. A collision early in Naruto's life will change the path that he takes. What happens when Naruto's view shifts before his dream to become Hokage? Where will his new path take him? Or how many strings will he pull? Or threads will he step over before reaching towards his new goal? So yeah guys, I really hope that you enjoy this one. So without further delay, let's get straight into it. We begin this at the village, Konoha. The village hidden in the leaf. The sun was shining hot overhead, as there was one 6-year-old, Naruto Uzumaki, not in class. He was currently sitting on the rooftop, that gave him a good view of the academy straight away. At first glance, one might have thought that he was skipping the class due to boredom, but they would be wrong. Naruto was actually incredibly interested in the history of his village, as they told tale of the famous shinobis that had come before him and their rise in power and their battles. In fact, the reason why he chose this spot is because he wanted to be caught. With his sensei noticing absent, he would just look through the window and he would see him right here. It has already been half an hour since class start, and Naruto was just sitting there, swinging his legs off the roof. But nothing. Naruto didn't finally jump up to his feet. Fine then, if they don't want me, then I don't need them, he said, as he jumped across the roof and grabbed onto a drain pipe before sliding all the way down to the ground. As he ran off in a random direction, as he wiped his eyes, he refused to cry. When the old man told him that he would be joining the academy, he thought about many things, many different missions, people thanking him, praising him as a hero, but there was something that Naruto craved even more. As a younger child, he'd walk up to a group of children playing ninja, and they would allow him to play, but the next day, they would simply ignore him and tell him to get lost, as he saw many of the parents glaring at him when he went up to their child. So he'd just sit by himself nowadays. He would listen to them playing around, and just thought that he was amongst that crowd, but he wasn't. But the academy, it was supposed to be different, right? He would join other kids that was looking forward to become shinobis. They would learn together as classmates. But all those young naive hopes were crushed in the first week. Both the senseis and children ignored him like he carried some disease. At first he pushed, showing that if he was good enough like that Sasuke boy, they would see him. But a lot of kids that were from the clans had some training beforehand though, and there was a lot of things that he didn't really understand. But he refused to ask any questions, thinking that the others would think that he was stupid. But still, he was really unwanted there. Naruto finally stopped as he catches his breath. His first thought was to go to the ramen shack, but guilt went through his heart. The old man and his daughter seemed so happy when they found out that he was going to the academy. But to tell them that he gave up, no, he didn't want to do that. But no, he hadn't given up yet. As he rushed out to the alleyway, he would just go back to the academy. The moment he rushed out, he slammed into a rather large man. After a few mumbled curses, the man simply glanced at him with a disgusted glare and walked away, leaving Naruto sitting there. Naruto sighed as he looked up, looking at the large library in front of him. He then remembered what one of the teachers said. Library. Yes, that was somewhere they could learn, without even the teacher's help. He never bothered with that place before because reading was difficult for him. But if it helped him become an awesome shinobi that his classmates would respect and admire, he would try it. That is why about 10 minutes later, he was walking out of the library with a stack of at least 10 books. He expected the librarian to give him some trouble, but the man, dressed in a chunin flap jacket, didn't even spare him a glance. It still bothered him how they would just ignore him, like his existence weren't even worthy of them. But he wasn't going to complain because at least it didn't bother him with taking the books. As he rushed towards one of the training grounds, there was one of them that he was fond of, that was far away from the academy as he made his way there. As he sat down on the soft grass, opening all of the books looking around, he felt like this was a turning point for him. Time skip. Ah, screw this, Naruto said, as he clutched the book on Chakra Theory in his hand. The only thing stopping him from throwing this book away was the librarian parting words on damaging the books. Diagrams that he didn't understand, words that he didn't understand, there was a lot of them. As he didn't realize that he chose the most advanced books on all of his subjects. He jumped to his feet. He feared that he would work on some exercises, at least he could keep his body in shape. He had no idea that he was being watched the entire time. Aren't you supposed to be in school, kid? Naruto spun around so fast he tripped over a book pile and dropped to the floor. As he dazed, looking at the silver-haired shinobi, looking at him with an amused look. At least Naruto assumed that it was amusement. The man wore a headband, and it was tilted over one eye, and he had on a mask over his face. What's it to you, Cyclops? Naruto asked. The man simply chuckled with a smile as he looked at the books surrounding Naruto. Well, I was heading to a training ground and spot you here. While I admire your work etiquette, kid, maybe your studies will be a bit better with a real sensei. As Naruto glared at the man, this isn't the way to the training ground, Cyclops, he said. The man simply chuckled again. Oh, I guess I got lost on the road of life. Oh, and by the way, my name is Kakashi, not Cyclops. Naruto blinked. The more time he spent next to this man, the more confused he got. Yeah, well, whatever, I'm not going back to that place. Kakashi simply turned as he looked off towards the academy. Oh, is that so? So how else do you expect to become a shinobi then? Well, I'll do it myself. I don't need anyone who don't want me, said Naruto. As Kakashi tilted his head a bit, before giving that strange eye smile again. Ah, and I see that he's going well, based on all of these books that you read, right? His tone was thick with sarcasm, as none of the books were open past the 5th page. It's not my fault if all the books use stupid long words. They should just say what they're trying to say. Kakashi then plopped down to the ground. Even sitting down, he was at eye level with Naruto. As he continued to stare at Naruto as Naruto wondered what the hell was wrong. Before he said, No, the man said. What? I said no. I don't think your problem is the books or the academy. After all, you seem pretty easy to give up on both. Hey, I didn't give up, Naruto shouted. Sure. But like I was saying, they aren't your problem. Your problem is that you lack a goal, said Kakashi. Naruto blinked as he sank to the ground. A goal, he said. Kakashi gave him an eye smile as he saw him become less aggressive. Yes, a goal, a driving force behind what you do. A motivation so you don't just quit when it becomes a little bit different and difficult. So what should my goal be, Naruto asked. Well, I can't really tell you that, kid. Otherwise, it will be pointless. It has to be yours. As Naruto wondered, what was his goal? It started to make him think why he did anything in the village. A village that didn't want him, and it started to make him feel rather depressed. But you know, said Kakashi, snapping from his thoughts. A lot of powerful shinobi, like the Hokage, for instance, made their goal to become strong enough to protect what is important to them. And, said Naruto as Kakashi paused. Kakashi reached forward and ruffled his hair. And like the Hokage, you need to start at the bottom, in the academy, he said. Naruto slapped away his hand. Fine. I get it, I'll go back. Kakashi got up as well as he saluted Naruto with 2 fingers as he turned to leave. Don't worry about it too much, kid. Once you have that goal, I'm sure that you'll be fine. With that, he suddenly flickered away, making Naruto stare with awe. As Naruto saw a book, but it wasn't one of the books that he brought. As he walked over to where Kakashi vanished, as he picked it up, it was a book with different new names, missing ninjas inside. Hey, Psych, Kakashi standing, said, looking over into the trees, as he wondered how did the man drop the book. With a shrug, he threw it on top of the pile of books that he already had. Realized that he will have to go back to the academy, but he will have to return these first. True to his word, he did go back to the academy that day, walking into the 2nd period and just sitting down. The teacher said nothing, continued the class like nothing had happened, even while the other kids whispered about the troublemaker. Far from his usual loud self, Naruto was withdrawn, thinking about his little black book that he now had. He had tried to return to the library, but Chunin told him that he just couldn't give any books that he found anywhere. It seems like he didn't belong there, so he kept it. As the teacher was writing some maths equation on the board, he pulled out the book and started to flick through it. It was pages of powerful shinobis with a bit of information on them. The more he read though, the more interesting he found himself. These shinobis and kunoichis were from all over the elemental nations. Their headband, scratched out or not, were showing different symbols. Some of them he hadn't even seen before, a lot of them though. As he flipped the page and he went over to a S rank missing in. S, the highest rank a shinobi could be given. Sorcery. At the first glance, Naruto could see a lot of similarities between him and the redhead. Well, they had same spiky hair. As he read it, he became more interested. At that moment, he had no idea how reading about sorcery would affect his life, but he was just too interested to leave it. The whole concept seemed interesting to him. Building friends to help fight for you. They would never disappoint you because they were puppets. They were yours to control. Slowly, a grin spilled his face as he read on, ignoring the lesson that was going on by the teacher. As he reached the end of sorcery's page, he flipped through the book and found some more puppeteers, but they were only B rank. They were not as strong as sorcery. It was disappointing, but it didn't get him down. For once, he found something that interested him. Something for him to aim for, something for him to become good at. He had a goal. As the day ended, Naruto quickly rushed to the library again, as he asked a chunin that was reading an orange book for a book on Puppeteer. The man went away for a while and then came back with a small book. For children, beginner puppets. This wasn't what he wanted. What the hell is this, Naruto said. The chunin didn't seem like he wanted to talk. He just leaned back in his chair. As Naruto then picked up the book and threw it right at him because he was ignoring him. Oi, what the hell was that, kid? That's not what they asked for, you jerk, said Naruto. The chunin with the bandage across his nose simply picked up the book with a sneer. It's about puppetry, ain't it, said the chunin. Yeah, but the stupid kind. He didn't care about any civilian. Puppeteer for kids. His puppets would be awesome and scary, not for any laugh. What? You're talking about the ninja art those sand ninjas use. Why the hell would you be looking that up? Well, because I'm going to be the best puppeteer ever, said Naruto. The man stared at Naruto for a few seconds before he burst out laughing. He then got up as he walked off into the bookshelf. As he then returned back a few minutes later, still laughing as he wiped away the tears from his eyes, as he put a book in Naruto's hand. That's a good one, kid. A Konoha Shinobi, becoming a puppeteer. Sorry to burst your bubble, kid, but that's a secret art. And the sand, guard your secrets like a merchant does your purse. Naruto looked on the book. It seemed pretty old. It seemed to have puppeteer from the Second Shinobi War intellect. As Naruto blinked at that, he didn't know there were Second Shinobi Wars. Well, he never knew that there were even a first. He then remembered the chunin laughter. I don't care, I'll do it anyway. Knock yourself out, kid. If you manage to pull it off, I'll be able to laugh at those sand ninjas having one of their prized art being figured out by a kid. Naruto simply nodded as he rushed out. That evening, he stayed up and read that book. There was nothing technical how the ninja art would work, but he started to gain a glimpse of how it might be tweaking. First and foremost was the chakra strings that sand shinobis were able to make. Now he just had to figure out what the hell chakra was. Yes, this was going to take a really long time. Time skip a few months later, as Naruto was eating some ramen, he has managed to unlock his chakra just after a few months of reading about the puppeteer. But controlling it was a challenge that he never managed before, considering that they never started teaching the academy yet, despite many of the clan children unlocking it already. He never got any help there, so he had to rely on the library there. Even then, the library books were difficult and hard to understand and long. He had gotten to the point where he could expel his chakra from his fingers. Yes, he was going in the right way, but he got another roadblock. Creating strings out of them was impossible. When he came out of his fingers, it was just wispy. It was somewhere between a liquid and a gas, something of a cloud. How he was supposed to turn that into something tangible was beyond him, as Konoha had never invested time to find out how puppeteer worked, so that was difficult. Maybe if he just worked harder at the chakra threads. Maybe if he worked harder in chakra control, then he could manage to control it some more and create threads out of them. He sighed into his ramen, thinking about the headache that was already coming. What's with the long face, Naruto-kun? As Naruto looked up and saw Ayam, as she was kneading the dough that would become the ramen noodles, as the old man had stepped out for a while. Watching her do that was just so calming, as he watched her form it into the thin, thread-like, as she roll it, and then form it. Naruto's eyes widened as he looked at his hands. How could he miss something so obvious? You're the best, Ayam-chan, he said, as he jumped over the counter and hugged her tight. She was confused. See ya, he said, and with that he ran off. She was confused. She simply chuckled as she shook her head at his weird antics. The moment he got home, he got to the wooden doll that he had taken from the academy. He had thought having something to aim at would help him create the strings. As he placed it in front of him, he couldn't keep the smile off his face. As he focused, it struck at his fingertips. This time, he spun the clouded thing into a thread. As he watched as the strings came from each of his fingers, he was so surprised that he immediately lost control, and it just disappeared into the air. But he didn't care, he did it. Yes, he says he jumped. As he did a small dance of happiness. Yes, he was getting there. But it took him 6 months, every day, after school he practiced to gain the thread to perfectly connect to something. And he also sometimes burned the points out in his fingers. And it will take a while to heal. So yeah, that cost him a lot. And he then got, well, when his fingers were healing, he got indulged into reading. Each book was like a different world that he had emerged into. It was so fascinating to read, learn new things. As he remembered when he first attached the threads. With a twitch of his finger, the doll arm had jerked forward as he had fallen over in his chair in surprise. Time skip. As Naruto finally made it back home after another day at the academy. As his apartment was rather clean. Mostly in the books that he read, people always cleaned up their apartments quite well. And on his table was a little wooden doll. As purple threads came from his finger and gripped the puppet. With a twitch of his finger, the puppet turned and moved towards him. With another twitch, the thing raised a hand and waved at him, as he waved back with his other hand that smiled. For a few minutes he made it flip and run around and jump. But still, Sasuke was able to control at least 10 puppets at a time. That is what he read, and he was only able to control one. So he needed to get a lot stronger and more advanced in the art. Well, he had a long way to go, and no matter what, nothing will get in his way. No matter what. Time skip. Naruto started to really hate the academy. The children, all of them had shunned him. So, he stopped trying to gain their friendship. He didn't really care about anything anymore. He just focused on his puppets. The teacher, likewise, ignored any question that he had. Not that he asked any, seeing that he learned at the library. And he could also see that teachers had a big favoritism, making the clan students go up against civilian students. Even the weird girl with the pale eyes beat her opponent, but she always apologized afterwards. And he was no different, being paired up against Uchiha boy, and also the Inuzaka boy. And the both of them had been trained in their clan taijutsu, while he and the other civilian students were not. But today, Naruto had enough. Let's see, how about Naruto Uzumaki versus Sasuke Uchiha? Aizuna Sensei, the second-year academy instructor, said. Almost immediately, Sasuke strode out into the ring. A few moments later, Naruto walked in as well, a little bit slowly. The teacher narrowed his eyes the way Naruto was walking. It was a bit stiff, as he knew that the blonde would never give up, all when he was faced with a superior opponent, and he would always get beaten around, and it was quite amusing. Made a seal of confrontation, he said. Sasuke held up his hand, as Naruto raised his hand as well. Alright, the teacher says. He stepped back. Begin! The students were confused because usually, Naruto would charge forward straight towards Sasuke. Instead, he moved into the academy style, something that no one had seen him use before. This time to just get this over with, Sasuke moved forward, his speed impressive for his age. As he figured he would go for the one-hit knockout, sending a punch towards his face, but he actually aimed for his stomach. His eyes widened when Naruto's knee came in between them, blocking his attack. As Naruto brought his other leg up in a jump, cracking Sasuke right on the chin. Everyone gasped, but Sasuke was thrown back, but not out of the ring. Sasuke got up slowly. That kick had felt like he got hit by a door as he rubbed his chin. A small smile came on his face as he went into his stance as his father was teaching him. As Sasuke dashed forward. As Sasuke was the flexiblest and the fastest out of the two. But Naruto hit like a steel bar. And when he got hit, he didn't seem like he felt the pain at all. And Naruto was able to predict all of Sasuke's moves, like he had eyes in the back of his head. Eventually, Sasuke was like panting. Bruises all over while Naruto just stood there. The teacher was confused. How did Naruto win? But just as he was about to call the match to preserve a bit of Sasuke's pride, he saw something. Wait a second, he said. As he moved forward and grabbed Naruto, he forced chakra into Naruto, breaking the transformation he had over him. There was a poof of smoke, and replacing Naruto was a human mannequin. It looked like it was slapped together from 3 logs. Whatever the teacher was expecting, it certainly wasn't this, as he saw thin chakra strings retreating into the students. Naruto, get out here! As Naruto walked out wearing a grey jacket, the sleeves were longer than his hands, so you couldn't see his fingers move. He twitched his finger as a puppet flipped and landed right beside him. What do you think, Sensei? Pretty cool, huh? I call him Dammy. He's a little rougher on the edges, but for my first life-size puppet, I'm pretty proud of him. For a long few moments, everyone was just silent. Naruto, did you make this thing? The instructor asked rather slowly. As Naruto nodded, still smirking with a shocked look on his students' faces. And what you did back there, that was puppetry, like a sand ninja. Naruto nodded. The man was shocked that Naruto was able to re-engineer one of the hidden sand puppetry. And he was also irritated that Naruto was the one that did it. But a scowl then came on his face. You're disqualified for cheating. Naruto blinked, the smirk slipping from his face as he lost control of the puppet, causing one of the arms to drop limply. Wait, what? You cheated using jutsu in a taijutsu spar. Don't do it again or you will have detention. As Naruto looked at the man in surprise, until someone spoke. Yeah, don't be such a sore loser that you have to cheat, dope, said Kiba, tagging Naruto along, making the other classmates start to speak as well. Cheater. Yeah, I know there was no way that Sasuke could lose without him cheating. Go play with your doll somewhere else, dope. As Naruto turned to walk away as the sensei spoke again. Naruto, I'll be taking you to see the Hokage. Once class is over, he will want to hear about your extra activities. Naruto simply walked away. Time skip. In Naruto's opinion, screw all the classmates. But the look on the Hokage's face that he saw when he demonstrated that he could use puppets. As a pipe fell out of the man's mouth when he made, damning, a wave at the Hokage in greeting. But that was a high pipe though, and everything went down from there. The Hokage asked him who was training him in puppeteering. It was hard to describe when one of the person you look up to the most didn't think that much of you, that you could do it on your own. Even worse, when Naruto told him that he'd do it on his own, the man asked for proof, surprising Naruto. The proof was the bandages in his arm, from when he had burned out the points in his hands. It was a sweat that he poured into the crate, his puppet. It had taken a long time to explain that he did this on his own, but when he was finished, Naruto felt something in his heart. To see the Hokage look at him like that, like he didn't believe him. The final insult came when he was leaving and the Hokage called him and told him that he was proud of him. Proud? He had spent the past half an hour trying to convince him and make him tell him who his trainer was, even though Naruto told him that he did it on his own. And when he finally accepted that there was no person that taught him, he was now proud? As Naruto left with a scowl on his face. Time skip. Iruka walked into the classroom with a smile on his face. Today was graduation for his students, and what a bunch of students they were. As he felt like they were the future of Konoha. Never had a class been so full of future heads and promising shinobis, and Iruka was the one to see them off on their journey. As he felt pride seeing each and every face. Maybe not all of them would receive their headband today, but those who work hard and truly deserve it would. He caught a glimpse of Sasuke Uchiha, a real tragic story what happened to his clan, but that didn't stop Sasuke from becoming Rookie of the Year. As he saw Ino, Hinata, Choji, Shikamaru, and Shino. All of them will become the future backbone of the village, or prominent members of their clan. Then Iruka's eyes drifted over to him, the boy who was sitting far away from everyone else. Naruto Uzumaki was an enigma to Iruka, ever since he took over this class 2 years ago. He was told that the boy was loud and loved to do all kinds of pranks and all that, but ever since, he just started to fade away in the background. And he started to threaten the top students like Sakura and Sasuke in academics. On the physical side though, he suffered greatly. And to this day, Iruka could rarely tell if it was really Naruto there, or was it a puppet. People wouldn't admit it, but what Naruto showed was a prodigious skill. One day though, everything stopped. Naruto's grades went straight down. It took a massive dive. It was obvious that he was lowering his grades. Iruka could see that, like he was taunting the academy. He kept his grades at the point where he was right in the curve. Right, at the dead last. It didn't take a genius to see that he was purposely rubbing out correct answers. One day Iruka decided to mark the faded answers anyway, because they were correct. The next day the answers were rubbed out even harder, till he almost ripped the paper. The boy always wore a hood now that shadowed his features. Nobody had any idea why he wanted to be the dead last, but then again, no one could figure out Naruto Uzumaki. He would sometimes miss 2 or 3 days of school, and then come in looking ill, or with various injuries and bandages wrapped around him. Honestly, Iruka swear that sometimes the boy gone out and poisoned himself, as his arms were incredibly red sometimes. And there was bags under his eyes, making Iruka knew that he wasn't sleeping. But he was wearing thin goggles right now that made it hard to see his eyes well. He tore his gaze away from Naruto as he shook his head. Quiet down, he said. Now, we all know what we're here for today. So let's get going as soon as possible, starting with the written portion of the exam. As Aruka went to grab the papers, he didn't know why, but he could swear that Naruto was literally smirking at him as his back was turned. Time skip, as Naruto took his headband from Mizuki. As he made his way home, placing the headband in one of the many pockets on the large jacket that he was wearing. As the sun was going down slowly, and it was a rather peaceful walk. The graduation exam had ended not too long after lunch. As Naruto was smiling though everything had worked out. That was the main reason for his smile, not passing. He knew that he would pass the moment he stole the written test answer key from Aruka's decks days in advance. They still had team placement tomorrow, but Naruto wasn't worried. He knew that he would graduate as dead last. So his spot on a good team was guaranteed. It was ironic why no one had any idea why his grades had taken a dive one day. But it was simple. Naruto found out that the Rookie of the Year and the Kunoichi of the Year would be placed to the dead last. It was rather obvious that Sasuke would become Rookie of the Year. Being on the Uchiha team wasn't really something he cared about, but he had a fairly good idea that the Uchiha would be getting a good sensei, something that he wanted to share, as he made his way back to his apartment. The apartment that he shared with roughly 1 or 2 people. As he made his way up the stairs, as Naruto pulled out his key and opened the door, his eyes went wide when he saw liquid spill over on his table. As he saw there was a fog, he quickly rushed to the bathroom as he wet a cloth. He placed it over his mouth as he rushed to the window, going through the fog. As he opened the window as a cloud flew outside right into the path of a bird. The poor creature couldn't even flap its wings before its heart gave out from the poison overdose. Before it could fall off the wire though, chakra strings attached to his body as Naruto yanked it right into the apartment. Making sure that the cloud had fully dissipated, Naruto closed the spill bottle. For a moment he looked down at the little bird with an empty expression. It was like he was used or unused to seeing dead animal. He had to test his poison on something. Then, again, that thing was awfully himself. There was a reason he missed the academy so much time. On a brighter note, he had come up with antidotes quickly when they were poisoned coursing through his stream. Plus, he had to be developing some immunity or resistance by now, right? As he held the bird out in front of him with his chakra threads, trying to move it around. The bird didn't sort of flap its wing before hopping onto a workbench. Its head cocked as his head turned and looked over at Naruto. He made the bird flap his wings. A smile came on Naruto's face as he rushed over towards his workbench. He quickly moved, Dami out of the way. As he set the bird down, as he grabbed his tools, it was probably going to be another sleepless night for him. Time skip, Kakashi felt like sighing as he looked over his new genin team. Well, first there was Sasuke, who was pretty much how he had expected the boy. Not exactly a good thing, but it was workable. He needs some attachment to the village and to tone down his obsession with his brother. When he arrived 3 hours late, Sasuke was leaning up against a wall, glaring through the window. Well, Sakura was unique. If he was expecting something else from Top Kunoichi, he regretted it now. She only had a one-track mind from her introduction. Sasuke. She was the one that screamed at him for being late in a rather loud voice. He certainly hoped that the grades weren't that misleading. Well, he knew that once he get her out in the field, yeah, he could probably work with her. Then there was Naruto. When he walked in, he was asleep at his desk, his body covered up like a burmy. Even now, he still looked a bit sleepy. Asked Kakashi, remember what happened? Alright then, said Kakashi with a sigh. At Sakura's introduction, the only thing she seemed to care about was Sasuke. How about you, Blondie, he said. He turned as a sweat drop came on his head, as Naruto was asleep. Sitting up. That was strange. Hey, Naruto, don't fall asleep. You're as bad as Shikamaru. Sakura was about to swing at his head to wake him up, but Naruto slumped back at that moment, making her miss. As she collapsed forward, falling right on his chest. Naruto slowly opened his eyes. Sakura, get off me, he said. She immediately got up as she slid away from him. As Naruto got up and looked at the Uchiha and his sensei. What did I miss, he asked. We were introducing ourselves. It's your turn, said Kakashi, his sweat dropped getting larger. Naruto blinked, looking like he'd much rather be asleep, but then again he didn't want to make a bad impression on his sensei. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. He then went quiet. And, said Kakashi. And what, Naruto asked. Never mind, said Kakashi, that will do. So, he had a blushing fangirl, a sleeping prodigy, and a brooding Uchiha. That was just great. Well, now that we all know a bit more about one another, Sasuke and Sakura sweat drop at that. They only learned the name of their sensei and nothing new about their teammate. I'll get right to the point, you guys aren't genin yet. There is one more test before you can say that. Come to Training Ground 3 tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock sharp. Oh, and I recommend you don't eat anything. You'll probably throw up. Kakashi blinked several times. Oh, and someone tell Naruto, okay? As Naruto was fast asleep once again. Despite what he said, Sasuke simply left, and Sakura was hot on his heels. A few moments later, once he was alone, Naruto smiled. Now the real fun began. Or perhaps in another 5 minutes. Yeah, he was still a bit tired. Time skip. Wataru was a rather plain man by, well, standards. He was currently a bartender. Because of a leg injury, he had to retire from the shinobi life rather early. As someone made their way inside his bar, another chunin that he didn't recognize. As he had get a lot of them, telling a lot of stories, so he knew a lot. As he poured the man a saucer of sake. You look tired, kid, rough mission. The chunin picked up the drink and put at his throat in one go. Immediately he started coughing his hand as the bartender patted him on his back. Whoa there, kid, take it slow. It's like you never had a sip of sake before. The teen smiled weakly. Yeah, that helped a little. I bet it did. So what's up? Well, you know that Kakashi guy, the chunin asked. The bartender gave a quick nod. He heard a lot of stories about the man to know what he was like. I just came off a mission with him. The bartender laughed as he started to wipe down the bar. It was getting late and soon, a lot of chunins will be stopping by, and jonins. I bet it was rough. I heard the man can be a slave driver on missions. Yet at the same time, man should be as lazy as those dogs that he summons. The chunin chuckled as he placed some money in the bar, as the bartender slid him a bottle of sake. Yeah, that sums it up pretty well. It was a rather routine mission, but having a jonin there cranked it up a notch, the chunin said, as the bartender nodded as he wiped the counter. I bet it did. Those guys can be pretty intense. Tell me about it. But then again, those habits of his are surely something. Ah, I guess you mean him being late all the time, asked the bartender. Man, if I haven't heard more shinobis grumbling about his tardiness. I also heard that one time he was 4 hours late to a jonin meeting of all things. The chunin laughed as he started to take a sip from his saucer. No kidding, he was about an hour late. As the both of them shared a laugh before the bartender leaned over a bit. You know, I gotta ask. I hear all these crazy rumors about him having a Sharingan under that headband of his. The chunin eyes narrowed, ever so slightly before he took another sip of his sake. So what do you know about that, the bartender asked. Sorry, I couldn't tell you. He had that thing down for all the mission. All my squad mates were wondering what was under there. The bartender leaned back a bit disappointed. Well, I guess I'll find out eventually. Bag of mistress, that Kakashi fellow. The chunin nodded. Well anyway, thanks for the drink. Anytime, kid. Oh, I never did catch her. The bartender realized Chunin was gone. A few moments later, someone that was sitting down in the corner put down some money for a glass of water. That was a weird one, the bartender thought. He was just sitting there, drinking water. Outside, the hooded figure walked down behind the brown-haired Chunin. As the Chunin then stopped and leaned up against the wall. As the figure reached up and pulled down his hood, showing his spiky, blonde hair. You continue to amaze me with your acting skills, damn it. A choker's thread on his finger twitched, and the chunin burst into a life-size puppet. Naruto had refined Dame into what stood in front of him today, shaving him back, smoothed out his body, articulate more joints, and added many more compartments for general storing. As Naruto used him for mostly information gathering. Or perhaps it's people's stupidity that amazed me. As Naruto pulled out a scroll and sealed his puppet away. Taking out a notebook, he wrote down everything that he had learned that night. As he wouldn't be failing this test no matter what, because he wouldn't be going back to that damn academy. As he took a small bell out of his pocket and listened to it tingle gently. The next day when the three of them arrived, two of them alone looked hungry. And they looked tired from waking up so early, but Naruto always looked tired, so that wasn't much. As Sakura and Sasuke were a bit surprised when Naruto walked up, carrying a small stack of book. As he simply just sat down and started to read through one of the books. Naruto, what are you doing, asked Sakura, as he did not look up from his book, reading about the interesting summary of the Sanins versus Hanzo the Salamander. Passing the time until Sensei arrived. I hate not making the most of my time, he said. How long do you expect to wait, asked Sakura, as she noticed the books. But Naruto said nothing, as then, Sakura and Sasuke's stomach then grumbled. He simply smiled. You two should go and get something to eat. Both of them looked at him oddly, but Sakura spoke. But Sensei told us not to, she said. He did not say that. He advised us not to eat. Unless you think you'll be sick from a mere test. Unless you have food in those bottomless pockets of yours. I don't think that we have time to walk off and get breakfast, said Sasuke. Naruto simply shrugged as he flipped the page. Sakura was surprised how he was reading so fast. He often read books in class, which some reason instructors ignore. You might be surprised, but I figured that you would say that much. As he quickly withdrew 2 wrapped sandwiches from his jacket and threw them at his teammates. As Sakura fumbled with hers for a moment before looking at it, her stomach rumbling. But Sensei said Naruto waved his hand, as he placed his hand like a mouth. But Sensei said he said copying her. Sasuke was surprised. It was the same. Sounded like the same voice in the high pitch. I didn't know that you could impersonate people's voices, Sasuke said. Oh, I don't know, Sasuke-kun, said Kakashi from behind Sasuke. There's a lot you don't know about Naruto. Sasuke turned around. What the hell? No one was there. What are you looking for, Sasuke-kun? As Naruto smirked. So, you can throw your voice, said Sasuke. Naruto simply shrugged. Stop pestering Naruto-kun, Sasuke Baka. Sasuke turned as he looked towards Sakura to see her face bright red. Stop impersonating me, Naruto Bakashi said. Naruto chuckled to himself. It was surprisingly fun, messing with his teammates. Eventually though, they sat down as they ate the sandwich. For the next 2 hours they wait, as Naruto read all of the books pretty fast. Why hello there my cute little graduates, said a voice as Kakashi appeared. As Kakashi was surprised that none of them react, Sakura was leaning over the railing watching the fishes. We're not falling for it again, Naruto Bakashi said. Huh? Said Kakashi. She turned. Oh, Sensei, she said. As her face then turned to a scowl. You're late, she said. As Naruto snapped his book, he only had a few more pages. Couldn't Kakashi be a little more later? Well then, I think it's time that we get started on your test. As he pulled out the 2 bells, he saw a smirk came on Naruto's face. Moments later, so you all understand, the 3 of them nodded. Good, then you have until midday, as he tied the bells on his waist. Well then, let's begin. Sakura and Sasuke went off, leaving Naruto alone standing there. Kakashi tilted his head towards Naruto. You know, you aren't exactly winning any points for stealth. He narrowed his eyes toward a tiny streak of blue light. But he ignored it for now as Naruto spoke. I don't need to hide, I already have a bell. Kakashi's eyes widened, but he looked down. Both bells were still there. He then saw Naruto holding up a bell that he pulled from his jacket. Are you in the habit of carrying our bells wherever you go? You know it's not very stealthy for a ninja. Naruto simply shrugged, as Kakashi saw that conversation wouldn't be going anywhere. Well, no matter how strange you got that bell, that is not the point of the exam. You were supposed to get one of these bells at my side. Naruto threw the bell onto the ground. Kakashi moved forward as he was about to entail Naruto in a taijutsu to test his skill. But Naruto poof, a substitution. As when the smoke cleared, Kakashi saw a hole in the ground, something slipping inside. What the hell? For a few minutes, Kakashi just stood there. For the entire time, he kept his eyes on the ground, wondering what went under the ground. Perhaps a summon? No, it was absurd to think that the first genin had a summoning contract and could produce something large. For a moment, he was tempted to lift his headband. It would be easier to see what was hiding underneath him. But no, not even some jonin pushed him to that level, he wouldn't do that. He then noticed his shadow becoming larger as he looked up to see a kunai coming down towards him, carried by an arm. As he caught the arm and flipped the person behind his shoulder, he turned as he saw Sasuke in a stance. You shouldn't be so focused on me, Sensei. Kakashi's ear twitched as he turned to see a barrage of kunais coming at him. He grabbed one of them with ease as he blocked away the others, but suddenly all the muscles in his hands, they just froze up. He had missed the purplish glish on the kunais. As Sasuke engaged him, he started to block Sasuke with his other hand. Sakura leaped from trees as she started to toss kunais towards him. As he jumped away. They are showing teamwork, now if only Naruto would. The ground then exploded behind him as he turned. What came from the ground was not human, even if the top half looked female. But the thing then opened up and revealed barrage of kunais that just fly out of it, all of them going towards Kakashi. Well, in his shock of how the thing looked, and it just appeared like that, Kakashi only could weave through the kunais. To his shock, he heard steel slicing through a cord as he spotted the 2 shiny bells flying away from him. As he tried to reach for them, something long and thick whipped him, throwing them away with surprising strength, a strength that genin should not have. Huh, looks like we win, Sensei. As Naruto dropped down from a tree, as Kakashi and Sakura walked over. Oh really? But what are you guys gonna do now? There are only 2 bells. What are you talking about, Sensei? Said Naruto as he tossed a bell to Sakura and tossed one to Sasuke, and he had a bell in his hand. Kakashi didn't remember the bell, then Naruto threw on the ground. Sure, Kakashi could call him out on it and saying only 2 of them could pass, but the bells were identical, and not to mention that plan was just genius. Well, what can I say? As he gave him an eye smile. You 3 pass, he said. Naruto and Sasuke lit with a smirk as Sakura danced in happiness. He then turned his eyes over back to the thing that was slipping towards Naruto's side, as he realized it was a puppet. It was a bit disturbing though, with the upper torso of a woman, her hair done up in a long dreads, and the lower half was a giant snake. It almost reminded him of something he might see in Training Ground 44. Its eyes were completely white, giving a cold, emotionless look. Its mouth had long, sharp teeth that gave it a vicious smile when Naruto opened the mouth of it. As Kakashi had never fought against a puppeteer before, that would have been his father. Naruto, just what is that thing? Know that your excitement had wore off. Sasuke and Sakura looking at the puppet as well. You like her? I call her Ramia. As Kakashi just chuckled a bit, who was he to belittle? The boy hobbies. He really regret not reading those reports. Well, okay then. As of today, we're Team Kakashi. I guess we'll meet back here tomorrow for training and missions. With that, he gave a friendly wave before poofing away. As Naruto looked over his teammates and remembered what happened. Flashback. Naruto sighed as he appeared in the tree line. He had no idea how fast Kakashi could be, but it seemed like he got away in time. As he looked over to Weir, he threw the bell down, as he manipulated his puppet into place, so she would be ready to lash out at any time. He would waste all the kunai that he stored in her body, but Kakashi told him to come at him to kill. It didn't take him all that long to find Sasuke. What do you want? Asked Sasuke. I'm here with a proposition, said Naruto. As Sasuke said nothing, let me guess your plan. You're going to wait until me or Sakura attack Kakashi, and then you're going to make a mad dash for the bell, right? Sasuke's face gave nothing away, but he didn't deny either. How about instead you and Sakura create a distraction? Your taijutsu will be much better to keep him busy. While Sakura lowered his guard, and I'll be there to swipe the bells when he least expects it. And then what? Naruto simply shrugged. You and I split bells, of course. We can both see that Sakura is a weak link here, and she would be only holding us back. Sasuke snorted. Says the dead last. Please, Sasuke. We both know I'm as much dead last as Shikamaru is. Sasuke narrowed his eyes before nodded. Fine. I'll go along with it for now. If you fail, I'll have opportunity to go after the bells myself. Naruto patted him on the back. That's spirit. Before he vanished. Meanwhile, Sakura was beating her thumb as she lay down under a bush. As Naruto suddenly appeared behind her. Hey, Sakura. Naruto quickly covered her mouth so she couldn't shout. Quiet, remember? We're trying not to alert Sensei to her position. After she had given a nod to show that she understood, Naruto released her. What are you doing here, Naruto Baka? She asked. Naruto sighed at what he was about to do. I came to tell you that I understand. Sakura blinked, not understanding what he was talking about. I get that at the end of this, only two of us will become a team, and I don't want to get in between you two, he said. Sakura blinked. Had Naruto always been like this under that hood? What do you mean, she asked. Naruto smiled sincerely. Well, it looked that way. I don't want to get between you and Sasuke. I will feel terrible if I end up on a team with him, knowing that you were left behind, unable to pursue your love. Not to mention things would be awkward if it was just us two alone on team. Her cheeks turned a bit pink. With his hair messy up like that, and him wearing his hood like that, he looked a bit cute, and the way he was talking was so sincere and sweet. So what, she said. I already talked to Sasuke about it and we came up with a plan. At the end, you two will get the bells. All you need to do is provide a bit of support with kunai and shuriken when you see Sasuke fight. As he started to walk away, I guess another year of the academy wouldn't be too bad. With that, he took off, leaving a startled, red-faced Sakura behind. A few moments later, he appeared on a tree branch. His teammates would be annoyed and surprised when they realized he played them. But they wouldn't be so pissed when they passed, but the look on their face would be priceless. End of flashback. Naruto almost felt like skipping home, as he felt happy, as he had Ramia seal away in a stroll. As Naruto made his way home, as he looked at the habitat that was inside of his apartment, as he tapped on the glass, there was a snake inside of it. Afternoon, Hisu, feeling hungry, Naruto asked, but the snake just slid back down. I guess not, as Hisu was an inspiration that he used to make Ramia. Mixing a human and the puppet was easier, because he tried to create a human-sized snake puppet, but that was, well, it went wrong. The skeleton for a larger snake puppet was ineffective, as he still remembered how he had gone about fixing that. Flashback. An 11-year-old Naruto was asking anyone where he could get his hands on a giant snake. He was pointed to a dango shop. He didn't know why, but he was pointed there. It would hold the answers he was looking for, and he had no better leads. The place was almost empty, seeing that the lunch rush was over an hour ago. The only person was there was a shop owner and a purple hair Kunoichi. As Naruto made his way over, hey, said Naruto. Uncle So lifted her head up as she looked at the runt that was looking at her. Surprisingly, he was actually looking at her and not her chest. What do you want, kid? Well, I asked a few people, and they said this was a place to go if I want to find a giant snake. Unco's eyes twinkled instantly as a sadistic grin came on her lips. Oh really? And what did a little runt like you looking for such a dangerous creature for, she asked. Naruto's eyes narrowed at her tone. What does it matter to you, you exhibitionist? Unco's eye twitched. At least the kid had some guts. as a sadistic grin came on her face. Well, you came to the right place. You want to know where to find giant snakes? As she reached into her pockets, as Naruto wondered how she kept anything with such skimpy clothing. As she then pulled out a pen and paper, she started to draw down something. Here, go to this training ground, you file all the giant animals your heart could want. He looked at a childish map before shrugging and grabbing it, much to Uncle's joy. Almost an hour later, Uncle emerged from Dango's shop. As she was now feeling a bit worried, she sent the kid to that dangerous position. Perhaps she could go and find him, or what was left of him. She then heard a ruckus down the street. A few civilians were whispering to themselves, as Uncle wondered why. The kid was back, but he wasn't alone anymore. He was dragging a snake, as long as Uncle's height. He looked to be struggling with it, but he was managing, as a sadistic grin was on his face as well. He looked excited, as he passed by. Oh, thanks lady, the place was great, he said, as he kept on dragging the snake back to his apartment. That was the reason why he created his new puppet. It was perfect, with the top half of the woman, and the body of a snake. Hell, if people were mostly focused on his puppet top half, what was firing out of the bottom half would catch him off guard. Time skip. It had been a month of non-stop teamwork exercise and D-rank missions, but Kakashi had finally given the group a C-rank mission, and they were going to Naminokuni, the land of wave. Growing up in Konoha and not really exiting the village once, Naruto thought that it would be exciting to be out, but once seeing a few things, everything just became rather boring. Naruto had become rather manipulated, as he was now thinking of way how to, well, manipulate people. Kakashi was hard to, well, work with. Well, not on a hard level, like they would be at each other's throats. Well, he was thinking about manipulating him, but Kakashi kept to himself. He was guarded of his emotions. For Sasuke, he could literally see the threads that he could twist and manipulate Sasuke as he wished. Try to question his abilities, or his pride of being a Uchiha, and he would be on you, quickly. Allow him to believe that he was leading the way, and he was a leader of a role. He would be along it rather quickly. Sakura was even easier, convince her that it was for the benefit of her and Sasuke's future, or it will help her get Sasuke to notice her. She would literally jump off a cliff. And Naruto wanted to guide her away from that path because she was a bit too upset, but it was just so tough and troublesome. But at least, she was coming along in the basics of medical ninjutsu. She had small reserves, so she had good control of her chakra. She could go on to learn ninjutsu, or genjutsu as well, but her weak body and her refusing to train didn't make it well for her. But Naruto still pushed her in certain ways, and when Sasuke saw that she was doing things, he just looked over at her. She thought that Sasuke was interested to see her getting stronger, so she was actually working harder. As Naruto realized Sasuke was jealous. He had a superiority complex, even things that he weren't interested in, like medical ninjutsu. He just didn't like anyone in his age group being vastly superior to him in any way. As Kakashi realized what Naruto was doing, but he didn't really say anything about it. He just gave him a disapproving look once, but he didn't really seem to mind. But if Kakashi was going to teach him anything or mold him into a good unit, Naruto would do it himself, even if it was by manipulating them. Hey, is that kid okay? He's been pretty quiet, Kazuna whispered to Sakura. He may have been, well, cynical about 3 kids guarding him, but he still didn't want to upset a shinobi. He heard the stories after all. Plus, there was this unsettling feeling when the boy walked. It was like everything was going on around him was just a background story. It was hard to describe, but every time Naruto looked at him, he felt a shiver went down his spine. Oh, Naruto? Well, he just, As Sakura blinked and looked at Naruto, he's always like this. Well, you'll get used to it, she said, with a smile. As Kazuna nodded. Sure, well, you seem pretty level-headed at least. Be honest, are you guys powerful? Can you guys protect me? As Sakura seemed ready to answer before Kakashi spoke. I already assure you my genins can handle bandits and the like. And that's all we're expecting from a simple C-rank mission. Sakura blinked and nodded. Bandits, she could deal with that. Just normal people without chakra. Plus, Sasuke will also be there to protect her as well. As Kakashi narrowed his eyes towards a wet puddle, 2 figures and burst out of it as they wrapped around Kakashi in a chain. Kakashi sensei Sakura screamed as they ripped into shreds. As Sakura froze at the sight, she couldn't even lift a hand to warn Naruto as the 2 moved forward and wrapped up Naruto as well. But they heard metal embedded into wood. Even the 2 assailants were surprised until they saw Naruto smirking. Sasuke, now, said Naruto, with a poof of smoke. The Naruto there transformed into Dame. Sasuke launched forward with kunais in hands. The 2 tried to move away, but they found themselves stuck as they saw the substitution holding its chain, but they realized it was a substitution as they released the chain and moved away. What the hell's a puppeteer doing here, one of them said. Sasuke sliced one of them on the arm with his kunai as he rushed forward and engaged the man in a taijutsu. The other one looked for Naruto, but Dame went on defense. The puppet was whipping out the chain at the man, who was using his gauntlet to defend it. But Dame was not one for fighting. The man ducked under the chain and cleaved Dame's arms right off. He's confident that the puppet was nothing now, but Dame raised up the stump and fired a kunai. It caught him completely off guard, thinking that the puppet was nothing but about a broken wood right now that was about to fall. The kunai literally ripped right into his eye socket, piercing his brain. As Sasuke was clashing and jumped away from the gauntlet. As he jumped away enough and went through hand signs. As Sasuke released a giant fireball, the man jumped away, but he was surprised to see a genin release a fireball like that, as he wasn't prepared for the knee to smash right into his temple. The entire ambush was over in about 30 seconds. It was quick, brutal, and intense. Afterwards though, there was a strange calm as the three of them looked over the battlefield. As Naruto dropped out of the tree looking down at the man on the floor, as he was dead long before he hit the ground. Kakashi-sensei, you okay? Naruto had already seen his substitution. It was what ticked him off to perform his own. Of course, you don't think an attack like that could get me, now do you? No, said Naruto. As he did not look up, he just stared at the dead body that was lying on the ground. This was the first human he has ever killed, indirectly, through a puppet or not. But he wasn't so sure what he should be feeling right now. It was supposed to be traumatic, right? He had taken away the life of someone else. The time he was living was gone. As he had the capability to take someone's life away, and he did. So why did he feel nothing? Not a flicker of emotion. Going to his heart, nothing at all. He felt nothing. Why? He felt like he was looking at a dead animal. As he looked at the man's joints, the way he fell, and the way his remaining eye was still open, he could see the shock on the man's face. He looked so much like a puppet that he could... Naruto was snapped out of his thoughts as Kakashi placed a hand on his shoulder. Are you okay? I'm fine, said Naruto. You did what you had to, Naruto. That's okay, you know, said Kakashi. I know, I'm fine, said Naruto. Kakashi nodded before patting the top of Naruto's hood, as he disliked that he took away his pleasure of ruffling Naruto's hair. Well, I'm here if you need to talk, a ninja. First kill can be hard. They had bounties, right? Said Naruto. Huh? Said Kakashi. Bounties. They're missing in after all. The demon brothers, if I remember it right. He supposed every shinobi's have their coping mechanism. You keep up to date to the bingo books, he asked. Why so surprised? You gave me my first after all. Kakashi's smile softened. So, you remembered. Please, there are no other shinobis who are stupid here. I was young, not blind. Kakashi chuckled lightly, ignoring the comment about his hair. You never said anything. Neither did you, said Naruto. Kakashi chuckled. Touche, he said. But guys, be in subscribe right here. For the next part, if you know what to do. Like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on the bell notifications to stay posted. Remember, share to all of your friends in your social media platform. But I'm out for now. See you guys soon. Peace.